What's up, guys? So today we're going to learn how to install the Windows Subsystem Linux on our Windows computer. So I'm going to run to a tutorial on how to install it and how to use some of the basic Linux commands and just just the overall basic usage of it. So first of all, what is the WSL? So that's short for Windows Subsystem Linux, and what it basically means, it allows you to install a Linux distribution on your Windows machine. It basically creates a virtual machine on your Windows computer and installs the Linux kernel onto it. And you could install multiple Linux distributions on your Windows system. So it's a pretty cool tool. I would recommend it for every developer to get familiar with Linux. And this is a really cool way to install it on your Windows machine. So let's look at some of the commands. So WSL is how you run it. But let's look at some, like for example, listing out all the distributions I have. So currently on my system, I have Ubuntu, which is my default. So that's basically an Ubuntu distribution on my Windows machine, and also have Docker Desktop installed, I'll get into some other video, but it's a containerization program to containerize apps, and it also uses the same WSL Windows Subsystem Linux technology. So let's look at some other commands. So you could list them out also with the verbose flag, which basically just shows more information about it. We can see that these are in a stop state. Version 2, which is the newest version of WSL, so make sure you have that. But that's the one installed by default. Okay, so let's look on how to actually install one. But first, let's list out the ones that we have available to us. So if you run with WSL with --list --online, this will show you all the distributions available to us to download. And you can see we have Ubuntu, Debian, Kali Linux, OpenSUSE, Ubuntu, different versions of Ubuntu. Since I have this one installed, which I believe defaults to, I think, the 20 version, let's just install Ubuntu 18.04. So in order to install it, what we do is use the install flag. Let me just clear this and put this to the top. So let's look at the ones that we have available to us. That is online. So Ubuntu, let's install Ubuntu 18.04. So in order to do that, we'll use WSL install, and then you could write a distribution like that, and then write the name of the distribution we want to install, which is 18.04. So make sure you just install the one under the name column instead of the friendly name. So once we run this, it's going to download Ubuntu 18 for us. LTS, by the way, stands for the long-term version. So I'll bring this over here because this opened up and it's installing it. So you have to just pick a name, whichever you want. I'm just going to name it Kevin. And then, yeah, password, just use whatever you want. And now it's installed. So we could actually, wonder if I can make this, yeah, let's make the text bigger. So we have basically Linux running at this point. So we could use ls. Currently, yeah, we have nothing in this directory, but so at this point, you could use all your Linux commands that you know. So pwd, which is print working directory. You can see that this is my working directory. You could use, ls, but there's nothing there. Let me just clear the console. So let's look at just some basic Linux commands that we could use. Make dir basically creates a directory. Let's just create a test directory. We go inside that one, and we could create a file. We could even print out the contents of that file, but there's nothing in it in that one for now. Let's add something. So if you use Nano, which is a pretty simple text editor for Linux, so let's just go in there and let's write something. Just do hello world and exit, save the changes, and it's cat, which basically prints out the contents of that file, and you can see it printed it out. So that's just a small demo that, this is Linux, and you could use it. You could basically use all the Linux commands that you want. And let me just exit out of this window. and go back to this one, which is our command prompt. So if we let me just clear it, and let's list all our distributions now. You can see that it added this new one. Now, if we want to go activate this one from the command prompt, we would use wsl or just d actually. So you could write out distribution, but you could also just use d, and then the name, the one that you want to run. So let's just go back and type this in and run it. And we could see that if you log in from here, it would take you to this directory. Oh, this is basically your user directory on Windows, but let's just do cd tilde, which basically goes to your home in your Linux machine. And then we could do ls, and you can see our test that is there, and same with our file. So if we do exit, we will actually exit out of this Linux distribution and go back to our command prompt. So this is right now on our Windows machine. And if we do, let's list the distributions again. So you can see that I was logged into this one, but I'm just going to log into the one I have installed that I'm using on a daily basis, and that's the Ubuntu default one. And if I just run wsl, it will just execute the default one, so you don't need to type in, -d and the name. Just do wsl, and that's it. And I'm in this one, and in this one, I think let me just write out who am I, and it's gkevinb. So this is the user I use for this one. Remember, for the other distribution, I just named it Kevin. So you can see that this is an entirely separate distribution that's installed on this machine. So you could install how many Linux distributions you want, as long as it fits on your machine. And it's a really cool way to basically make these Linux distributions used for development or used for whatever you want. So basically that's all I wanted to show on this tutorial. I hope you liked it. I hope you're going to try out Windows Subsystem Linux, because it's a really awesome tool. I would recommend it for every developer to learn the basics of Linux. It's going to be really helpful in your development career. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.